Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I was just wondering a few weeks ago, what is Saoirse Ronan up to nowadays in terms of film? And lo and behold, here she appears in The Outrun. And she is absolutely stupendous in this role, as she always is. She's been consistently putting out incredible performances one after the other, pretty much in all the films I've personally seen her in. In any case, The Outrun is a film that is often hard to watch because it deals in addiction, specifically alcohol addiction in this case. And especially in the early parts of the film, we see her just absolutely destroying herself through her binge drinking. And the sad reality is that it doesn't just affect her personally, but it also affects those around her. I think some of the moments that resonated the most with me was her relationship with her boyfriend. Someone who really wanted to be there for her, but it became increasingly impossible to just maintain that relationship as much as it pained them. The chemistry between both actors is something that really resonated on screen for me and also kind of touched me on a personal level. So that's one major part of the film, but then the rest of it is kind of this exploration, this creating this process of what is a life without alcohol. And FYI, this is based on a true story. In fact, it's a film adaptation of Amy Lipchop's memoir. And she actually co-wrote the screenplay for this film, so that was a nice little detail. And she does, at least for a brief moment, appear in the film. So this film is pretty much this very soul-searching and at times very poetic introspection on one's life and one's struggle with addiction. There are a few moments that I found to be quite profound in the film. And when it comes to the visual landscapes of the film, well, that word, the landscapes are absolutely breathtaking. It really is beautifully captured on screen. The crashing waves and the winds in particular, there's almost this magical quality about the weather that also ties into the story in a very clever and meaningful way. And not only is there a visual landscape to the film that is super inspiring, but there's also a very unique take on the soundscape of the film. The way I say, there are three types of sounds. One would be the sounds of nature, whether it be the crashing waves, the sound of animals, what have you. Then the second would be the chaos of the drunken haze of her binge drinking days, which is super effective in creating that sense of chaos and degeneracy. There were a few moments where sonically it almost reaches this boiling point, either from anger or even just the traffic and just hustle and bustle of people around that are just making this almost this buzzing sound that is almost unbearable to take. Finally, there's also the music that, not so much the soundtrack of the film, but more the music that Rona herself is listening to regularly throughout the film. And I do find it interesting how the film weaves in between those three states in some pretty creative ways. But of course, I can't talk about the artistic qualities about this film without talking about the color. Yeah, me who just shout outs the color in every film I see pretty much. Clearly, there's a very prominent use of blue in this film. It's not the only color, but it's definitely the one that gets the most screen time. There's some very effective use, regardless if it's in the props, the environment, the clothes, even the weather, nature, the skies, water, even Saoirse Ronan's eyes that are just this beautiful blue that matches the color of her background, her hat, even her jacket, and what's left of her dyed hair. The hair in particular has a very noticeable presence, and it is totally giving me Clementine Krasinski vibes from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. But in any case, apart from the hair being this cool visual element to it, it's actually something useful to the narrative itself, because the story is presented in this non-chronological fashion, so the hair is literally a landmark that helps ground us in, oh, where are we along the timeline, because it's not always especially easy to follow. So I do find that the hair color, not only is it a reflection of the character, but also works as a really clever functional tool for the narrative. And as the last comment for the hair, I do particularly like, well, her blue hair that is slowly fading away, and there's just the ends of her blueness, which creates this subtle message of well, she's kind of draining the alcohol out of her body slowly. Or perhaps it is draining her. I guess we could look at it both ways. But if I did have to be critical about the film in a few areas, I do find that the pacing starts to drag a little bit towards the end. Not that I found it uninteresting, but I felt that maybe we're kind of retreading on grounds that we kind of already explored a bit. And then there are some relationships in the film that I feel are slightly underdeveloped. And the third point is kind of a wild one. There's this thing with animals in this film. For the most part, it's super cute and endearing, and there's quite a bit of caretaking of nature, wildlife, from a very scientific point of view almost. Well, at least that's her career path that she's going down, but we don't actually see all too much of that in the film. But regardless, there is one moment in particular that was kind of shocking visually, and I didn't see that coming. There's nothing else in the film like it. I guess this is just a reality of living on a farm, but yeah, I'm not too sure how I feel about that. And if there is a message to be extracted from it for the film itself, I don't know what it is. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know in the comment. But regardless, overall, I was quite moved by this. Even if I don't have all the satisfying answers I was looking for, either from this film or in my own soul, it is something that made me reflect more deeply on addiction, and yet another reminder that it is no easy thing. So initially on a knee-jerk reaction, I was going to give this film coming out of the theater like a 7.5 out of 10, but honestly, having slept on it quite literally, it's the morning now, I want to bump it to an 8 out of 10. This is a challenging film, thought-provoking, and in some cases kind of euphoric. There are quite a few beautiful moments that I imagine will resonate with a lot of folks. So with all of that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.